fantastic to mix into any soil, and it works out fantastic because you have a good split up mechanism of having these pellets, clay pellets, that you can mix into your regular soil. So I will show you the process of how this is made. It wasn't on purpose, it just happened this way, and these pellets are fantastic for any garden because they have such a high content of clay. I want to condition this clay into a better material for any gardener to grow inside. Clay is very interesting. It sticks together. It's like pottery clay. It is very hard to get fluffy or usable. But clay has a very interesting benefit to any soil. It has an electrical charge that competes or attracts the electrical charge of water. So it has this ability to keep water attached to it. So in a garden setting, it is really good to have a portion of clay in any type of soil. So don't consider clay a bad thing. It has a real good ability to retain water and nutrients. This here is leafy material out of the river. We have a river here. This could be anything you find in your yard that is quite organic. Very few stones in it. This here is lots of twigs and leaves, and it's not finished decomposing yet. This is sort of like a peat moss material that is very common here. It grows around trees. So when trees fall over here with bad weather, we usually collect some of this peaty material. This here is from the river as well, and it has lots of life in it. There were things growing inside this, so it's a bit different from this material or this material because it's actually had life in it already. This here is a sand we have here, but there's a big difference between the two of them. This one here has lots of organic matter in it already, and this is pure sand from the river, very fine sand. So the objective is to get this clay soil mixed in with all these materials and having the sands and these materials mixed in with the clay. So we want every single element to improve this clay. That is the idea. We want to improve the clay with all these different materials. Now the ratio, this could be, let's say, 5 times as much clay with this type of material would work just fine. But we're going for a similar ratio to end up with a great soil. We know here what our great soil is supposed to look like. So when we mix these all together, we will know if we've done it right or not. And you have to remember there's a soil triangle which has clay and a silt and a sand. And we're taking that one step further. We're going to add all this other material in. Now this trench composting material isn't completely rotted yet. It's only had a couple of weeks. But anyways, we're going to mix this in, and I'm going to show you what this clay turns into. Soil scientists say never ever mix sand with clay because supposedly it turns into concrete. For me, that statement is actually irrelevant because I know that clay benefits from having different materials added to it. So I would never just add sand to clay. I would add all this stuff to clay to get it into a much different material. So we're going to do something a little bit different today. We're going to actually put all this stuff into the cement mixer, and we're going to mix it for 5 minutes, and we're going to dump it out so you can see what happens to this clay. It's soaking wet, by the way. It hasn't rained for like 5 days, but this stuff is like, it's absolutely loaded with water, which is really good for your plant roots and everything else if you have that component in this material. It will help you retain water in your soils. So I'm going to start getting all these materials into the mixer, and stay tuned to see what happens. This river material has actually got all kinds of living organisms inside it. There's insects crawling away from it everywhere. Okay, so there's a very odd thing that goes on when you're trying to separate clay. It has this coin ball. All the metal detectors know about this. So in every ball, there's a rock in the middle. So it's really good if you can get all the rocks out of your clay, because the rocks, another one, the rocks are always in the center of these balls. So that's the only problem with doing this type of separation. You'll always have a rock in the middle if you don't filter out the stones. There's always a stone in the middle. Just a little bit of a tidbit. Okay. Yeah, so I want to report back something that I didn't expect myself. What happens is the moment you have a little pebble in this mixer, it will attract the clay to make these clay balls. It's very bizarre. So they will form around this rock. Even if you separate them, they will keep on doing it. So it's very interesting. There must be an electrical charge or a mechanical process where these rocks attract the clay. And it affects the mixing part of this. It actually, you have all these little balls that you can separate easily, but it's very interesting how these balls are forming through the mechanical process of mixing it. And there's always a rock in the middle. It's very unusual. And that's just something that happened during this experiment. Okay. Yeah, if I had to make this video over again, I would call it how to make clay balls. That's how I would make this video. There's nothing wrong with this, but it's very particular that it's turned the entire mix into these little clay balls. I'm going to dump the mix now and you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, so everything is turned into this grainy material, which there's nothing wrong with it. I think it's probably fantastic. I'm going to mix this into garden beds, and I don't know, I think this is a discovery here that if you use your mixer you can make these clay balls. The soil feels really good. The sticks are, most of them are chewed up from the mixer. But I really like this mix. It's very unusual that the clay is separated into all these tiny little balls. If I didn't have the clay in this mix, I wouldn't have any of these balls. So it's interesting how this addition of clay to this material turns it into these clay balls. There's millions of them.